the Republican tax bill. It is so much less, but it is also a tax bill, or the tax scam, as we have called it, as many have called it, is now a reality. Here to discuss that bill, and especially its political implications, with us is a good friend of the program. He has a secret identity like a superhero. By day, he is John Bauman, Democratic activist and fighter for economic justice, especially for older Americans. By night, he is Bowzer, formerly of Sha Na, and both John and Bowzer join us now. So, John, thanks for coming on the program.
Well, thank you. Oh, wait, no, that was John. I'm sorry. Thanks, Richard.
You're welcome.
I get the characters confused sometimes.
Hey, listen, at least you only have two. I've got the Mormon Tabernacle Choir in my head. But let's talk about the tax bill. We've talked here and elsewhere about the economic implications. They're dire for most Americans, especially in the long run. We know that they're targeting Social Security, and Paul Ryan has said as much. Social Security and Medicare are the ultimate targets of what they're doing. Once the pay limitation factors in this kick in, we're probably going to see mandatory cuts to Medicare next year or 2019. But let's talk politics, if we may. What do you think this bill is going to do to the Republicans in 2018?
Well, now you're tapping into my true secret identity, my secret identity, which isn't a secret at all, actually, as the president of Social Security Works PAC. As president of Social Security Works PAC, I will personally be going around the country, hashtag Retribution 2018, trying to make sure that people who voted for this tax scam don't get reelected or don't get elected in the first place, depending on the race we're talking about. Now, as a for instance, here I am in California talking to you, and there are, it's a very progressive state, as you know, as a former resident. We have, but in this very progressive state, because we have so many congressional seats, there are 14 Republican Congress people. 14 House seats belong to Republicans in the state of California. 12 of those Republicans voted for this tax scam, which in every case, their constituencies are going to be damaged by this tax scam. Specifically, very specifically to some of the big blue states that have higher state and local taxes than other parts of the country. Californians are going to really suffer from the limited deductibility now of state and local taxes. And, what sounds like a lot of real estate money in this state isn't really all that much. So these Californians, I think, are really going to be targeted. Well, I know they already are. They were in trouble to begin with. People like, Dana Rohrabacher and Darrell Issa and Mimi Walters and Duncan Hunter and Steve Knight were all in trouble to begin with before this tax scam vote. And for a lot of them, it's just going to make it worse. 12 out of 14 of them voted for this abomination, and they are going to pay a political price.
Well, and I know that some of them, or I shouldn't say I know, being here in Washington now, I had heard that some of them, like Darrell Issa, were hoping for special dispensation from their paymasters, for lack of a better term, their machine operators, the puppet masters, to vote against this thing so that they wouldn't have to pay the price. But it sounds like only two of them got the permission slip to act as if they cared about their constituents.
Yes, and the kind of intel that you and I would both love to have, which is to be a fly on the wall in the Republican caucus, where they're trying to figure out, okay, so these guys in New Jersey are going to get a pass, these guys in California aren't going to get a pass, or somehow this worked out that more Jersey congressmen and New York State congressmen voted no than Californians. I can't begin to tell you why or how that happened, because neither of us, I don't think, have a good fly on the wall inside the Republican caucus. But everybody who voted no on this, I think Republicans generally, if you look at the generic ballot, which the latest one came out 50-39 in favor of Democrats, latest significant poll, they were in trouble to begin with. And this is really just going to make it worse, and it's going to make it worse in the blue states. And I'm going to go on record as saying to you on national radio that, number one, I think we're going to take back the House in 2018. And number two, I think that the path to taking back the House in 2018 is largely going to go through California, where there's a run of seats that were in jeopardy, Republican seats that were in jeopardy to begin with, and this just makes it worse. And it's going to go through largely California, New Jersey, upstate New York.
Well, upstate New York is where I grew up, so maybe we can divide up. So again, we're talking with John Bauman, John Bowzer Bauman, who, among other things, is the president of the Social Security Works PAC. So, okay, John, let me do what I sometimes do, which is take the worriers, side of this discussion just for a second, but for a constructive reason. Okay, so what I worry about is that first of all, Democrats are doing very well in generic matchups, but you got gerrymandering where a lot of Republicans have an unfair advantage. You got to win district by district, right? And secondly, I worry that that the Democrats out there, I feel as if what they've got to do is they've got to say, this is who these people are, and we're gonna make them pay for it. And when we get in, this is what you're going to see from us. So maybe we don't need to do it in 2018, but I feel that there's also got to be and this is what we stand up for. Do you know what I'm saying?
Sure. Well, number one, amazingly, I think the message really did get through during this tax fight, even though at the end of the day we didn't win. The message really did get through, I think, quite successfully, that although you, the American middle class, might be thrown a little bone to gnaw on in a very temporary way, this was really, 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 really geared to the top. This entire tax scam was just a creation to make Donald Trump money, and in the end result make Bob Corker money, and in the end result make a zillion rich Republican senators money, and blissfully, the Democrats who are wealthy, people like Mark Warner, and so on, all voted against it, so that the Democratic caucus held firm. Yep. And I think the public really got that this was not for them. One thing that I had been saying and tweeting from the very beginning was that there should be no discussion of tax cuts until Donald Trump releases his tax returns, so we could find out how much he and what I've come to regard as the Trump crime family are going to benefit from this. We still don't know that. But I think it really did get through to the public that these people were out for themselves. They were not on their side. And whatever little bone the public gets thrown in this in a temporary fashion, because we all know that by 2027, everybody's taxes are going to go up who are making $75,000 and under. That the bone is, it's like, thanks a bunch, but no thanks. This really wasn't good for us. I think Democrats consequently have a very easy path to describe that once we regain power, and sadly that means we would have to regain not only the Congress, but the White House. So it could take a little bit of time depending on what happens with Mr. Mueller's endeavor. But, I think the path is pretty clear that once we regain power, the middle class tax cuts will stay and be in fact improved. And the upper class tax cuts will be rescinded. And,
Yeah, no, I
You
get
know,
what.
this isn't rocket science for the public to understand.
No, especially if we're able to say at the end of it, look, you know, maybe if you're lucky, you'll get 50 bucks. Okay, probably not. Maybe if you're lucky, you'll get 50 bucks. But what are you going to do when your Social Security is being cut? You can't see a doctor on Medicare because of Medicare cuts. Your sick kid can't afford medicine. I mean, that's the world they're building with this bill. That's the world they're bringing into effect, and there's talk now. So now we know Trump's not going to sign it until January. That's the latest word we've got, and that's
Right,
so
to delay the Medicare cuts.
to delay the mandatory Medicare cuts under his own bill. Now, I got to say, even pessimistic me, John Bauman, I think the public's going to get that particular ripoff. I think is going to be, no, it's going to be November 2018. People are going to say, you know what, next month, in 6 weeks, they got to put through some cuts in Medicare. You know who votes? Yes, you know, because you're president of Social Security Works PAC. You know who votes a lot in elections like 2018's? Seniors.
Those would be senior, older people. Yeah, that would be definitely the trend. And as you know, Marco Rubio committed the literal definition of a gaffe maybe about 10 days ago by actually telling the truth and saying they were going to go after Medicare and Medicaid because now the deficit, you know, was ballooning,
Right.
which they just ballooned the deficit by $1.45 trillion in this tax scam. So they're not going to get away with that. I mean, I really do feel like the public has been following this pretty well, and you look at all the polling on this, and it's, you know, vastly unpopular. It's not going to get better. And they understand that now Republicans in Congress are going to use the ballooning deficit that they just created to go after their earned benefits. And that is not going to work. As you know, Alex Lawson, executive director of Social Security Works, and I have been out on the hands-off Medicare and Medicaid tour all this past year. You know, first to stop the health care bill, the horrible Republican health care scam, and then to stop the tax scam. And people get hands-off Medicare and Medicaid, and that's not just Democrats. It's independents, it's Republicans, it's everybody. Everybody loves these earned benefit programs, and no one wants them cut. So Republicans are going to have plenty to answer for. I'm really looking forward to, you know, I know you tend to be a little bit more, you know, pessimistic than I on things. We've talked about this at great length, but I don't think my optimism is misplaced for 2018. I really just don't. I think that the public, this is like, you know, the sports analogy is these Republicans have been in the bullpen, you know, for 8 years of Barack Obama. And you know, it's pretty easy when you're sitting in the bullpen, you know, say, "Oh, I got great stuff. Wait do you see this?" When I get in the game, you know, it's going to be unbelievable. We're going to repeal and replace Obamacare, and you know, the middle class is going to get a big tax cut, and the upper brackets are oh no, we're going after them, blah blah. Then you get in the game, and it turns out you have nothing. You have no stuff. You have no fastball, you have no curve, you have no split finger, you have no slider, you have nothing, and you're just getting 27 hits in a row. And unfortunately in America, we can't take you out of the game that fast. It takes a little bit of time to get you out of the game. But that's really what's happening here.
And you're selling the sports equipment to like rich people in the audience, and you know, just to take your, you ain't even playing the game anymore. Really, you're just looting the stadium. Well, you know,
correct.
You know, we're gonna have to leave it there. But I gotta say, as I think about this more, and as we talk, this alien sensation that I feel coming over my body, I think it's hope. I think it's optimism. So John Bauman, president of the Social Security Works PAC, and of course Bowzer of, I think your thing now is called Bowzer's Rock and Doo-Wop Party, is that right?
It is. It is. And I should also say that I'm going to be, I just taped my fourth consecutive hosting stint on the PBS doo-wop specials that keep getting done. So this one is called Doo-Wop Generations, and I think it comes out in March. So yeah, I am active still on the musical front as well as the political front, and I've accomplished something this morning that I never thought I could do, which is to engender hope in Richard RJ Eskow. So with that, I say, I feel like I've had a good day so far. Good night.
Good
And
night.
for peace.